A surprise.
Hey, internets, it's Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, and this is Scribes and Scrolls, the Candlekeep mysteries. Yet another stream where we just join in the midst of a conversation. You have no idea what was going on. Now, this is our continuing Monday night campaign happening every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on twitch.tv/Mini Terrain Domain. And with tonight, we are starting Book 2, Mazfroth's Mighty Digressions. At the end of last session, the players leveled up, having completed Book 1, The Joy of Extra-Dimensional Spaces. And tonight's episode, Chapter 7, is entitled Sapere Aude.
What does it mean?
We will see what that means in the course of the episode. A couple of super quick announcements before we get into the recap and get going with the game. I have to give the usual caution about internet. I've been fighting my internet all weekend, but for the last 36 hours it's been okay. But if for some reason we completely drop off, if we're able to, we will continue to play offline if we can't get the stream back up and have the VOD ready. I'm working on getting all the VODs up on YouTube as I catch up on other VOD uploads that I'm behind on. All right, enough about that. Real quick, I want to draw your attention down below, Dwight, to our channel sponsors, Talon and Claw and Run Right Play. If you type in !MTD Claw, you will have a link to the Talon and Claw storefront on Etsy, where you can order all of the wonderful wooden dice accessories that they make over there. As well as there's t-shirts available, laser engraved coasters, all kinds of cool stuff, cutting boards, and Anthony's always adding new stuff, plus collaborations with 88 Riddles and others. Makes for a lot of wonderful stuff that you can buy for yourself or your players or your dungeon master. Head on over to the store and use code MTDClaw to get 10% off your purchase. Check out Run Right Play by typing !RWP, and that is our good friend Keel, who you can also find over on Big Bearded Nerd on Thursdays as a part of IHOM, International House of Minis. Keel is a genuine fae spirit in human form, one of the kindest people that I know, and has built a brand around collaboration with people in all aspects that fall under his brand, Run Right Play. And he puts out a monthly zine. You can check out his Patreon at the link that just popped up. Of course, we have our usual partnerships with Jasper's Game Day, which you can support directly by typing !Jasper or by typing !Coffee and get a hold of some Metade roast coffee from Initiative Coffee Company's Help Action. $3 of every purchase goes to benefit Jasper's Game Day. If you look up above Jordan's head, you will see that there is an open book and 5 mysterious domain tomes. That is a way that you, the viewer, can have an impact on our game simply by tipping $5, cheering 500 bits, subscribing, gifting subs, resubbing, such as that meta sub that Jordan just did. That earns domain tomes that the players can use to for 1 domain tome they can gain advantage on a roll. For 3 domain tomes they can re-roll a die roll that they're unhappy with, and for 5 tomes they can force me to re-roll. So keep that in mind as you subscribe. That's how those work. Since Jordan just did one, I will go ahead and change that to 16 domain tomes.
Woohoo!
Magic, just like that.
Yahoo!
Fantastic. All right. The last thing I want to talk about, and it's just perfectly timed up with the information at the bottom of the screen. As we do before every stream, we want to let you know that you matter. It's very important for me to tell you that you matter, because you might be struggling with that, and that's okay. It's okay if you're struggling. It's okay to not be okay. We're all there at different times, but you don't have to do so alone. And there is help that is available for you, no matter what you're going through. And so what we've done to help you with that, and what we like to do is, first of all, we talk openly here about mental health. Myself and my players are always open with each other about where we're at. It helps us with our safety tools to make sure that everybody's able to handle what's going on in the game, and have our lines and veils. It's all part of the discussion of mental health and safety in gaming and making your online gaming spaces safe. So one of the things that we do to make it easier for you to find help if you don't know where to look is all you have to do anytime, day or night, whether we're streaming or not, just type in !help in our chat. And the help message will pop up. It'll also pop up along the bottom of the screen periodically. But that link that pops up is findahelpline.com. All one word. And you go there, type in where you're from in the world. That's all you got to do. Hit enter. And many resources for all different types of mental health services will pop up. And they're all just a click away. So I encourage you, if you are somebody that is looking for help, is in need of help, please use this anonymous resource and see if you can find the help you need, because we're serious when we say it, that you matter. Your presence here makes a difference. Okay, I think we are ready to play some Dungeons and Dragons.
Woohoo.
So most recently, this band of would-be adventurers, would-be seekers at the Great Library of Candlekeep showed up here at Candlekeep for their own purposes, and were almost immediately whisked into adventure when they were summoned to investigate the missing sage by the name of Matreus. They found him in a study room through a portal in a permanent Mordenkainen's magnificent mansion, where he promptly said, "I gotta go," left them in there, where they were trapped for the better part of a day and had to figure out the puzzle on how to get out, while fighting just about everything that was animated, including books and swords and a chair. And at one point, hands, several severed hands that were crawling around on Vorn. It's a hand thing. If you know, you know. And at any rate, eventually, they didn't even find all of the books. They just figured out. I should say, Asaria figured out from the clues. Asaria figured out that the letters on the spine spelled out the word liberty, at which point they were able to open a portal and leave this permanent mansion. Almost immediately, Teera tripped over the dead body of Matreus lying on the study room floor and was immediately attacked by an invisible imp. The imp statue Matreus had brought with him had apparently transformed once outside the mansion, attacked and killed Matreus. Very quickly, the party dispatched this imp. They then decided to split into two groups, with Mizya and Asaria and Soren heading off to find their ogre friend Little One at the hearth, where Asaria explained to Little One that his friend Matreus had died, and Little One expressed a very astute understanding of the meaning of death and the importance of moving on. Meanwhile, they had sent word to have the avowed adjutant that they had met previously, the young tiefling named Irony, to be summoned forth as well to let them know. Vorn, Teera and Doc stayed back in the Pillars of Pedagogy to try to find somebody to let them know, hey, this sage died. Unfortunately, they found that nobody could hear them because most of the study rooms were protected by silent spells. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, so many people were probably sleeping. However, Teera did find a misplaced Modron, a monodrone, a singular-eyed, round, mechanical fellow bouncing into a wall, who handed her a book. A featureless leather tome containing mismatched, battered pages, an elegantly written title page that said Mazfroth's Mighty Digressions, authored by Mazfroth Githur. But the interior of the book was anything but magnificent handwriting, scrawled notes, pages from various sources sewn in, barely held together. But Teera didn't really have time to peruse the book at great length. As the party was reunited in the court of open air, just in time to see a hurried Irony rushing across the courtyard, the last thing they saw was Irony standing before Little One, and in the light from the hearth windows, they saw the giant ogre reach down and scoop up Little One into their arms as they grieved together. The rest of the party heading over to the House of Rest, where they would spend the night. And we are going to pick up right there, around there, before we start off in the next day. I must ask in particular, because Mizya and Vorn weren't present, is there anything you would like to discuss amongst yourselves that evening, or would you wait until morning the next day?
Honestly, I think Teera wants to just go get like a big alcoholic something and then go to bed.
Okay. Nightcap. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vorn wants to get alcoholic, like a beverage as well, and tries to talk to Teera about it, but can obviously see that it's not the time to talk about it, so does the same.
We can talk in the morning, Vorn.
What about the others, Mizya?
Yeah, Mizya's not really feeling herself, and is certainly ready to turn in.
Assyria and Soren?
I think because she did get a drink from the barkeep, she's gonna take her drink, and kind of see if she can maybe take it with her to the House of Rest.
Yeah, nobody would stop you if you...
Perfect.
My
Take
God,
it.
I love this place.
Perfect. And then she's gonna see how like she wants to be up high to kind of look a little bit closer at the starlight. So I was honestly, I don't know if it's possible, but I was picturing her just kind of like sitting up on the roof and just looking up at the stars for a little bit, with Soren kind of...
Yeah, I would say that the House of Rest is a three-story structure.
Okay.
With a couple of there's like a main large building, a couple of smaller buildings attached, and it wouldn't be that difficult for you to find a way up to the roof, probably on a balcony, and just climb up there.
Yeah.
And yeah, for just as a reminder, it is the night of, or the wee morning hours of the 17th of Tarstak, the 4th month of the year 1492, and it is a new moon. So the only light is the starlight and the ambient light. There's otherwise no moon to provide light.
Okay.
She's
just gonna be up there looking at the stars.
Okay. And Doc.
Everyone is going to leave Doc in the hearth, and he's just going to sort of be looking around, and he's going to say, well, I guess I'll go work on something then. To no one in particular.
Oh,
I like to
boy.
imagine it does like zoom way out and he is alone in the bar.
Aw.
So
Well,
you all find yourself in, as I said, the House of Rest is a 3-story structure. It's immediately next door to the hearth. And there are a couple places where there's sort of like a hostel type situation. So there's like open bunks and stuff like that. But there's actually plenty of private rooms here as well. And when you enter, you find that somebody has paid for you all to have private rooms for the night. So you don't need to worry about that. It was assumed you all just arrived separately the day before, so you probably would want your privacy. You don't know each other yet, so nobody made that assumption that, hey, you're going to bunk together.
we've known each other for like 16 hours.
Right.
100%.
So we'll fast track to the morning, and there is a definite air of solemnity even in the House of Rest. And you very quickly find, as you each get up and begin to get ready for the day, that you just catch word, the buzz, somebody mentions it, that there will be a memorial service for Matreus held in the court of the open air in just a couple of hours. And that many people are preparing for that and planning to attend. If you head outside, if anybody heads over to the hearth for breakfast, you would see that already a simple stage-like dais is being constructed in the center of the court of open air, and many chairs are being placed, and a larger area designated just for people to stand for the coming service. What would everybody like to do this morning? Where would you go and what would you do?
I head over to the hearth for breakfast. As Teera's kind of getting ready and getting dressed, she does grab that little, like, I assume it was like a scroll case with Atreus's notes and what was left of his money and like the stuff that we found on him. And she's planning on taking that to Little One this morning sometime.
Okay.
Heading to the hearth.
Saria is as well.
Does Vorn notice the way they talk about him? Is it one of those funerals where everyone is happy? I'm sorry, one of those ceremonies where everyone is happy to see him dead, or they're mourning like the loss of someone who's really important to the organization?
Go ahead and roll me an insight check.
That's fair. Wow. Here we go.
Oh.
Here we go. Power 1.
Jeez, Ricky. I'm so
Use
sorry.
Real dice.
okay.
We need like real witches to put a hex on you, a good one.
I say let's get the bad rolls out over foolishness as opposed to
Yes.
account.
Okay, that's a good way to
if
look
you're
at
gonna roll bad on an insight check to see how people are talking about the deceased.
Yeah.
We need to get
People
Goblin and V to
hated
bless
him.
some dice for you.
Yeah,
That needs
the
to happen.
Goblin and V blessed Jordan's die, and she rolled a nat 20 on the first roll last week.
Yes, I did.
So, Vorn, all you can get a sense of is you can feel that just in the air. It feels like before a rain. It feels just that there's a heaviness in the air, though you don't You don't. I mean, you hear lots of talk about the passing of a scholar, the passing of a sage. You don't really get a sense of whether people are happy, sad. If anything, to you, it just seems matter of fact that this is a thing that's happening.
It's worth noting, I think, Vorn was with us when we talked to Irony about this, I think. So at least Irony, is sad about this.
Yes, Irony was sad, and Irony also mentioned this for Mizya and Vorn, that there would be some questions for all of you, though you are not suspected of anything, and that there would be this service as well. So So Vorn, Asaria, or Vorn, were you heading over to the hearth as well? Is anybody not going to the hearth?
I'm going to the hearth.
Doc is not going to the hearth.
Yeah, I think I would. Mizya would be taking the time to wander around and familiarize himself with the area, since we didn't really get a chance to see what was here before we took off on this adventure. Mizya doesn't eat a lot or socialize.
Okay. So you're just going to walk around in the court of open air?
I'm just trying to see what's out there. I mean, Mizya's here to study, and obviously I haven't been able to get into anything that has books yet. So
that is the wrong map.
What's this map? Photographic memory. Oh.
It's literally just a generic study room in Candlekeep. Oh. I had a crash when I was trying to load some maps earlier, and I didn't know where it left off. But
oh no!
So Mizya, as you're sort of looking around, you are here in the House of Rest. Next door is the hearth. There is a large granary right next door. Food stores and such. The Temple of Ogma, the god of wisdom, is located in a smaller structure next to the granary, between the granary and the blacksmith and stables. There is near the gate the bath and steam house. This large structure over here is the House of the Binder that you were told about, the book bindery. The Emerald Door, which is granting access into the inner wards of the library, is here, with the erudite outfitters and clothiers located over in that corner there. So
sounds fancy.
All of this stuff was pointed out to you when you first arrived. So is there any place you want to check out in particular? Or are you just wandering around the grounds as they're setting up for the funeral?
Just getting used to what's there. Is there any place that would have any kind of study capability?
So you know that within the hearth, you were told, when you're inside the hearth, there's, first of all, it's much larger on the outside than on the inside. Wrong way. Also, all along the inside on the the walls are several doors that lead to extra dimensional spaces, demi-planar chambers, meeting chambers, shrines, places that you can rent, basically, to go in and study. Outside of the Pillars of Pedagogy, where you were studying, or rather where you found Matreus.
Jake, quick note, Vorn and Mizya are black on this screen.
Oh, fantastic.
No problem. I got you, boo.
We were talking about it in the chat. I didn't know if you saw it or not.
Hey,
Jake
I
was busy
exist
with
again. Yay.
his flowery descriptors.
There we
No
go.
longer consigned
No,
to.
it's because when you're not here, I turn off your camera,
Mhm.
and then you have to earn your camera back.
Mizya and Vorn have been perceived.
So, Mizya, it sounds like
Awesome.
you're just looking for a quiet place to study.
I'm looking for things to study.
Oh,
So,
things to
yes.
study.
Yes.
So-
I am here to study. So
I think that as you're looking around, maybe whether you walk very far or not, with everything sort of located along the south and southwestern part of the Court of Open Air, you find that nothing's, other than the hearth and the House of Rest, nothing's really open. There's a lot of activity around the House of Ogma temple, as everything seems to be dedicated to getting ready for this memorial service. Yeah, so
I think as I'm wandering around, I get a little more and more frustrated as I see everything is closed and not available. Probably and dropping a few audible, like, not trying to be subtle about it, but just very passive aggressive. Anytime I'm by somebody that looks like they might be in charge of anything,
Such a
letting
Karen.
them know that I'm not happy.
I would like to talk to your manager
Yes.
of
please.
Candlekeep.
But barring any interaction, I'm not going to instigate it, but barring anybody speaking to me or anything like that, I'm just going to maybe just do a circle around the court. And if I get back to the hearth, then I will eventually make my way in there.
I would say you could probably circumnavigate the Court of Open Air in about 15-20 minutes. Having to dodge around people that are setting things up. You see a lot of avowed from the library. People of all ages and races that are running chairs and setting things up and just making sure everything's ready. The stage you watch as its construction is finished, and there are several chairs that are set up across the stage for whoever's going to be speaking or present. So you just see a lot of activity taking place quite suddenly, though efficiently, for someone who just passed away the night before. Doc, what are you doing?
Doc is also going to be wandering around the Court of Open Air. He's not really going to be talking to anybody. He's going to be looking for something that he seems to have misplaced.
Oh.
Okay, what are you looking for?
Last night,
secret?
Doc made himself a friend, and the friend has disappeared.
He made a friend.
Oh.
Okay.
He made a friend.
What?
I
Yeah,
think I have.
I feel like this is in a very literal sense, not in a
I know.
I
I
met someone new way.
Tink, made a friend. I guarantee. Yes.
Yup.
okay.
I want to meet this friend.
It's gonna be Sporky from Toy Story 4.
So he's just sort of looking around and looking under things. He breaks out his magnifying glass to like look through the small narrow passages, and he's just he'll tap on the shoulder of one of the people who are setting up the stage.
Yes. How
Excuse me.
may I help you?
Oh, are you the person I met on the first day when I was here?
I don't believe so. I've never seen you before.
Oh,
This is a looks like an early 20-somethings human man.
have you seen my friend?
It's possible. Who's your friend?
His name is Frank.
Frank.
Oh my
I've not met anyone by the name of Frank.
You'd probably remember him. He's somewhat oddly shaped.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I really want to help you, but I'm gonna need more to go on.
Okay.
A more specific description.
He's sort of reddish brown, and he's in the shape of a terracotta flower pot.
In the shape of a flower pot.
That's right.
Reddish.
Yeah, reddish brown.
And please do understand, there is absolutely no judgment here. But is your friend a flower pot?
That's a very strange question that I never expected to get asked.
Oh my god.
I can't say for sure one way or another. Really, what is anyone? But this flower pot is special.
I'm sure it is.
He has invisible angel wings. He flies.
You know what? Frank sounds amazing. And I do hope you find Frank. Frank sounds just like a absolutely lovely friend. If I'm really busy here, we're getting ready for the funeral and it kind of looks up. Soon, very soon. Good luck.
Oh,
and if I do see Frank, I will let you know.
Yes, please. I'm told that I stand out in a crowd, so I should be easy to find.
Yeah. Kind of looking around at. I would dare say of everybody you've seen just milling around, you and the little one stand out above everybody else.
Above everybody, Jake. How dare you? How dare you?
How dare I?
The audacity. I can't believe you've done that.
Mizya, you would see at some point Doc talking to somebody and occasionally wandering around. It's up to you if you approach Doc at all.
Doc doesn't look distressed at all, correct?
I don't know, Doc. Are you distressed? Nope. Just looking around.
Yeah, I think I would just continue my circle and head back.
All right, Doc. Give me an investigation check.
19.
Nice.
Keeping in mind, I have no idea yet what Gary's doing. I'm gonna say you find what you are pretty sure might be Frank. On the back side of the stage.
Oh, there he is.
Oh my god.
You son
of
There he is. There he is. It is Frank. It is Frank. Frank is in the house.
Oh,
with invisible angel wings flying around.
Why didn't you run away?
Does Frank speak?
How does Frank communicate?
He does not speak. He understands my languages. He doesn't speak.
Okay.
whoa.
You shouldn't run away from
So,
people.
take a point of inspiration.
First of all, amazing.
Can I have more than 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. You can. In my game, inspiration stacks.
Oh, great. Okay.
You also are going to get 5 more domain tomes thanks to Hawkmere.
Oh.
Gifting out 5 subs to the communities. Thanks, Hawkmere.
He says they all go to Gary specifically.
Wow.
So
That's a special day.
yeah.
Oh goodness! All right,
Wait. Hawkmere gave tomes
To
to
Gary.
Gary.
Yeah, to Gary
Yes.
for that.
Y'all
yeah.
need to mark this moment in time. Like,
Yeah.
Today was July 5th.
it takes a lot for Gary to impress Hawkmere,
Phenomenal. Phenomenal.
or it takes very little. It takes a flying flower pot.
Better make them last, is what you're
So-
saying.
So
Amazing.
I have to ask this, Gary, Doc. Can anybody else besides you see Frank?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a flying flower pot.
Okay. Fair enough.
Good to know.
Oh my. Jeez.
Another 5 domain tomes. Thanks to Crucian Gal. You guys are awesome.
Cow.
Thank you for sharing the love. We appreciate you all.
Mwah.
So you have been united with Frank. Once you find Frank, what do you do?
Doc is going to start speaking to Frank, and Doc is going to say, you know, you shouldn't leave people alone. That will make them worry that something happened to you. I don't want to feel like Irony and Little One felt when they found out Matreus died.
Doc is developing feelings. Oh my god. If Frank the Flower Pot gets killed, I am quitting this game, and I'm going to put that out there right now. just throwing it out.
No pressure.
Jake furiously makes notes.
And as Doc says that, Frank is gonna flutter just a little bit.
So yeah, you're walking around now with this little floating sort of, and it's not just floating, it has this slight like bobbing in the air, as it just sort of stays in. I imagine it sort of floating in around your shoulder and maybe moving around, occasionally orbiting your head as it moves by another shoulder. As you're walking around, at some point you see that same Avowed. You walk nearby him and he just looks over and he goes, well, hey, you found Frank. All right.
He was in the last place that I looked.
That's how it always goes. Just keep an eye on him, and then goes back to work. Eventually, I would say for those of you that went to the Hearth and had breakfast, you're able to find decent food, beer, non-alcoholic drinks, whatever, and are satiated. But before long, you notice that those that are inside, though no discernible means of communication, everybody just seems to agree that it's time and begins to move outside. It's just that kind of like when there's an assembly happening, eventually everybody moves towards the assembly area. Mizya and Doc, you would note that people are beginning to form up, with some of the older, some sages and Avowed are taking the seats that are in the first few rows. Many other are coming out of the House of Rest, out of the Hearth, out of the Pillars of Pedagogy, and beginning to form into this crowd that's sort of in the central area. The stage, I should clarify, the stage is sort of set up with the Temple of Ogma behind it. And then the crowd filling out most of the court of open air. Eventually, a procession of people wearing various vestments. They just have this air about them of somebody who's in charge of something. And at some point, unless you would choose to do otherwise, I imagine it's easy for you to pick one another out in the crowd if you'd like to sort of gather together, unless there's a reason you want to stay away from the group. You may do so.
I want to know where my team is, but I also want to know if Little One is out and about.
give me a investigation check.
Can do. First roll of the night for me. Let's see how it goes. It's a 7.
No sign of little one yet, and you know
Damn
he
it.
should be standing out in this crowd.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Okay.
You all see as a group of about 10 individuals move up to the podium, to the stage, where there has been a wooden lectern has been set up. There are 10 chairs set up there as well, and all of these people in their vestments move up to the stage, and the crowd is beginning to. There's enough space in the court of open air. You're never crowded. People spread out enough. There's a few hundred people here. You definitely get the sense that this is not everyone. Like, Matreus has garnered the attention of the library, has garnered the attention of the sages, and several friends or acquaintances you don't know. But he's doesn't seem to have been prominent enough for an all-out ceremony. Eventually, you also hear the sound of wagon wheels on the stone pavement of the court of open air, and you see as from the emerald door, little one comes through pulling a wagon with a funeral pyre already on the wagon. You see the stacked wood and the straw, and you see in robes of deep blue, Matreus laid out on top of this pyre as it is brought forth to alongside the stage, and sort of facing towards the gate that you all came into when you entered Candlekeep. Eventually, around this time, you hear as the crowd begins to quiet in their murmurs, and all of you roll me a perception check real quick.
8.
I rolled a 16, so I get 15.
Okay.
Dang it.
1 per us area.
I rolled a 20, but I have disadvantage on perception, so I rolled a 9.
Rolled a natural
No.
1.
Oh,
What did you get, Asaria?
21.
Asaria, you're the one that notices of your group that I forgot their name. Irony is standing next to you. They've managed to just find you and have sort of sidled up next to you. They wear the simple robes of the avowed, but you see that they have a black cloth armband on their left arm. That you've probably noticed a few people are wearing those. And Irony just looks up at you, and you can all hear if you're in this close group. This would be a good ceremony. Matreus knew many people, and I'm glad to see that all of the sages, the great readers, and even the keeper of tomes and the first reader are here to recognize him. There will be a short ceremony, and then he will be committed to the air afterwards. There will be some time. Sages are gathering in the hearth, and I have been asked to bring you there afterwards. The questioning will take place after the ceremony. Oh, wait, it looks like it's about to begin. And you notice that, excuse me, that one of the 10 people on the stage has stood up. You see seated there on the stage, the 10 seats are, there's about 4 or 5 humans, there's a couple of dragonborn, there's a halfling, a tiefling, and there is a, they almost look elven, but they have elongated features and a very yellowish skin. They are Githzerai. And one of the humans steps up and walks up to the lectern. Irony says, "That is one of the great readers, Tellus of Aude." And you see great reader Tellus of Aude is a mature human woman. She has rich reddish-brown skin and long twists of dark gray hair falling down around her shoulders as she steps up to the lectern on the dais. She's wearing flowing purple and silver robes, embroidered with intricate symbols of eyes with candles floating in them, and her hair is adorned with purple and silver beads with the same glyphs engraved upon them. When she speaks, her voice is not loud, but it carries over the crowd, magically amplified to be heard by all as if she was standing even just a few feet away from you. Keeper of the tomes, first reader, great readers, master readers, avowed, adjutants, sages, scholars, and seekers, I greet you today on this solemn occasion, under the watchful eye and the warm candlelight of Ogma and Teera. Today, we are gathered on this most solemn of occasions, as we say goodbye to a teacher, a colleague, a student, a friend. Matreus. She looks over to where little one stands next to the wagon with the pyre and the body of Matreus. Like so many who have come before us, his pursuit of knowledge has come to an end. Whether you think that it was premature, too abrupt, unjust, unfair, you are entitled to feel that way, for a time. Our great library here at Candlekeep houses the largest collection of some of the rarest works ever created in our world. Untold volumes recounting the lives of Faerun's citizens, from the greatest to the least well-known, from arcane rituals of long-forgotten gods to the secret recipe of Nimsy Huddle's halfling cookies. We have lost more books, maps, scrolls, and yes, even sages in the labyrinthine corridors of Candlekeep than most people will ever see in their lives. We take great pride in our collection here, and go to great lengths to preserve them and keep them safe. But this does not just include the written or illustrated word and works put down on parchment, hide, canvas, or stone. No. Our protections and preservations extend to our greatest treasure here in the great library. You. Each and every one of you is part of the greater whole that makes up this citadel of knowledge. For without you to seek the written word, who then do Ogma and Teera watch over? What then is their purpose? One of the earliest lessons I learned in my studies when I first came to Candlekeep as a seeker, don't ask me how many years ago that was that many of the works here are incomplete, or tell only a part of the larger narrative, to be continued or even completed at a later time by others. Stories come to an end, but the greatest tradition, the telling of stories, continues on in each of us. Today, we close the chapter that was the man we knew as Matthias, committing his spirit to the air like the wax and flame of the myriad candles he burned in the pursuit of knowledge. But the story of Matthias does not end here. We all carry it to some degree within us. We each have a piece of the inspiration that was Matthias, and we each can choose to continue that story in our own special way. So, as we say goodbye to Matthias the Sage, let us do what so many scholars before, like Matthias, have done here at Candlekeep and beyond. Let us dare to know. Sapere Aude. And with that, great reader Tellus Avosta steps back, stands in front of her chair, but she does not take a seat, as the Keeper of Tomes, the first reader, and the 8 great readers all rise to their feet. 2 of the individuals, a human woman and a dragonborn, the Keeper of the Tomes and the first reader, they walk to stand in front of Little One. The 8 great readers stand 4 on a side, and as they begin moving forward towards the gate, which is already opened, the crowd begins to filter and follow as they lead the wagon outside of the gates. Irony says, leaning over to Assyria again, but you can all hear, the funeral pyre must be taken outside of the city, for within the walls of Candlekeep no fire, magical or otherwise, will burn, with the exception of the hearth. Do you all follow the procession outside?
I look at Irony and I'm like, they said go no further than the hearth, yeah? Are we allowed to go?
Yes, that is why I am here. I am sort of like your chaperone. You are permitted to attend if you wish, but you are not obligated.
Vorn's definitely going, following her behind.
I nod and I go too.
Anybody not going?
I think if everybody else is going, Mizya just kind of at the back of the group. 9. God,
you're such a humbug.
Bah, humbug. Give me my books.
Fine, I guess I'll go to the stupid funeral. I don't even care though.
Mizya is like Bells, but much older and crankier.
So, the procession heads outside the gates. Not very far. People begin to gather as Little One pulls the wagon off to an area not far, Vorn, from where you would have set up camp when you were waiting to enter. There is a patch that has been cleared and has a good view overlooking the Sea of Swords. As the wagon is set up, you see as Little One steps away from it that it is intended that the entire wagon itself is the funeral pyre. The Great Readers, the Keeper of the Tomes, and the First Reader all form a circle around. Again, Great Reader Tellus of Aude says, speaking in a way that allows all of you to be able to hear what is being said. In the great tradition of the sages upon their passing here at Candlekeep, one work was chosen, pre-selected from among Matreus's own writings. Who has this tome? And you watch as Little One steps forward, reaching into a satchel. And he pulls out a scroll case. And with giant fingers, carefully opens it up and pulls out a sheaf of parchments. Little One steps forward towards the keeper of the tomes, the human woman, who places her hand out towards the scroll parchment, produces flame, and sets the work on fire.
Ah,
And
sad.
Little One places it into the kindling under the pyre. Takes a step back. Great Reader Tellus of Aude says, "Let the burning of this tome symbolize the knowledge that Matreus will no longer be able to seek. It is the sacrifice of lost lore." And within moments, the pyre is ablaze. And all of the Keeper of Tomes, the First Reader, and the Great Readers step back away from it as it goes up in fire. It's not long before the body of Matreus is consumed. And before the fire is even out, people begin to trickle back in towards Candlekeep proper, the Court of Open Air, where the gates are still held open. And eventually you would see 3 figures remain standing close together, watching the pyre. They are Little One, Irony, and Tellus of Aude. And that's where we're going to take our break.
Wow.
All right. We're going to take about a 10-minute break, and we'll come back. And I should probably give these guys a chance to talk. As we get on with Chapter 7, Book 2 from Mazfroth's Mighty Digressions. Sapere Aude. We'll see you in just a few minutes. And we're back.
Oh my God, Gary, Jesus.
Doc with his with Frank the floating flower pot flying around
Flying
him.
flower pot.
Now we just need Einstein the dog and we're good.
Yeah. Dr. Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
So you have borne witness to a funeral service for Matreus the Sage, and you were taken outside of the Candlekeep walls where he was committed to the air in a funeral pyre. As the crowd heads back inside to the Court of Air, you see many people begin making their way back to wherever the House of Rest. A few go into the Temple of Ogma and various places around the Court of Air. A fair amount of people head into the Hearth. And you do see a couple of the great readers do go in, and but the Keeper of Tomes and all but I'd say all but three counting Tellus of Auste, who is still outside the gates. They all go back through the Emerald Door into the library proper. Where do you all go? You find yourself inside the Court of Air in your group. What would you like to do?
We have to go back to the hearth, correct?
I think that's what they wanted us to do.
Might as well head
Is
back.
irony still out there, right?
For the moment, yes.
How far outside the gate are they? Like how
About a quarter mile.
Oh, okay. Visible though?
Yeah.
Holy cow. Quarter mile is still pretty far.
Yeah.
Depends on what you're trying to do.
I kind of wanted to go over there and give little one his stuff. I mean, I look around and I say, well, if Irony's not here to take us anywhere, it can't be that urgent. I think I'm going to go out there and I pull out the little scroll case and I kind of show it to the team. I'm going to give little one Matreus' things. And, worst case scenario, I catch him on the way back, meet him halfway. So
Good.
Anybody want to come, or you guys can go to the hearth? I don't really care.
Do you want me to go ahead and order something for you? That way
Yes,
you have it ready.
please.
Okay.
The big ale.
Got it. That's what I figured. Yeah.
That'd be great.
It
Thank you.
comes in pints.
Yeah.
Anybody gonna go with Teera?
Vornuk will Teera.
Mizya, where are you sulking to?
I'm just finding a spot in the hearth and sitting down
Mizya doesn't move. She
and
sulks.
reading. Yep.
Sulk is a verb.
Mizya is Professor McGonagall.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can't unsee it now.
Dwight.
If McGonagall was drow.
Accent. Get the accent. Make it a part of you.
Mizya is not nearly as kind or patient as Professor McGonagall.
I'm sorry.
If McGonagall and Snape had a child.
Oh God.
That child hated everything.
Turn to page 394.
Oh, amazing.
I don't know why, but I picture Mizya turning pages very loudly because of all there's just a lot of revelry in the hearth. I just picture that.
Is 105% annoyed at the fact that we are not inside the library right now.
Just enraged.
Yeah, Asteria and Soren will head off towards the hearth.
All right, Doc.
Well, nobody suggested Doc go anywhere. So he's just going to sort of stand in place and talk to Frank. So, Frank, what do you want to do now? Speak up. We're going to have to work on your communication, Frank.
Oh my god. They're singing songs from Little Shop of Horrors together.
Seymour. As the flower pot just continues to flit about and orbit your head.
Oh, I love him. I love him.
Vorn and Teera, you would, before you get to them, you would see the three figures of Little One, Irony, and Tellus turn and begin walking toward, back toward the gate. And so, as you had suggested, about halfway there, you catch up to them.
And I guess I want to go right over to Little One and sort of, I don't want to like stop them. This doesn't need to be a meeting. I just sort of want to like join them walking back towards Candlekeep. And I just want to like look at Little One and I want to sort of hand the scroll case out to him. And I'm like, these were, I don't know if you have to burn all of his knowledge or what the custom is, but there were some notes that he wrote in here about the not so magnificent mansion we were stuck in. And then there was just a little bit of pocket change that he had. And then, you know, just a couple of little things, a lot of blank paper that he was going to write on, you know, and a quill, I think. But anyway, these were his, and I figured it would be you to give it to, you know.
I appreciate that very much. Teera the Sunmaned, I believe was your name.
It was. You got a good memory.
And no, it is not necessary that we burn all of Matreus's belongings. It is merely symbolic and ceremonial that we burn one work that the deceased was working on. I had some pages from, if I'm being honest, a not very good play that he was working on. He wanted me to read it. That's actually what we were supposed to meet about yesterday. I was afraid I was going to have to tell him how bad it was.
Teera does kind of laugh and like pats Little One on the whatever she can reach, elbow.
Probably though, yeah, elbow or forearm.
And says, "Well, I think you chose the right one to burn. Then sounds like he did other better stuff that it's best left intact."
And then he kind of looks, as you're continuing to walk, he looks at this scroll case and he hands it over, easily reaching over top of Irony's head, hands it to Tellus and says, "I think maybe this would be beneficial to you, great reader, if this contains Matreus's notes on what he was looking at." Thank you, little one. We will be sure to take great care of this. It is greatly appreciated. As is the 10 gift subs from Duval. Duval! Who just contributed in a Duval fashion. So I owe you 10 domain tomes.
Oh my god.
That's my big bro. I love
burning
you so
a
much.
hole in our pocket.
So, she looks over at you, Teera, and says, "If I heard correctly, your name is Teera, the Sunmaned."
Yeah, you can just call me Teera. They don't call me the Sunmaned anywhere but up north, so.
little one tends to remember the name that's given. And you are, as she looks over at you, Vorn.
I'm Vornuk. Yeah, I'm friend of Teera. All around decent person, I guess.
Yes.
I elbow Vorn.
I've heard a bit about all of you from Irony. Seems you've made quite an impression on your first day here at Candlekeep.
It's made an impression on me as well, thinking back to the mansion.
Well, I hope that it intrigues you and doesn't sully your impression of our great library here.
Very intrigued.
I am Great Reader Telis of Orste, one of the great readers of Candlekeep. But let us go to the hearth. I will get us a private room, and you and the rest of your friends can join us there. I have some questions for you, I'm afraid, about Matreus. Nothing too probing, but you do understand one of our sages was found dead, and you were the last to see him alive.
Sense.
Fair enough. Yeah, absolutely.
So we cut to the interior of the hearth where Mizya is attempting to read and study at a table. Assyria and Soren, would you have joined Mizya or given them space?
I would probably sit at the table adjacent to Mizya, having picked up that Mizya likes to be on their own. So, being respectful and not wanting to intrude, and not being completely comfortable yet with Mizya, Assyria and Soren will probably sit at the table adjacent, and Assyria is just feeding Soren pocket bacon as they're kind of sitting there. She's ordered a mug of ale and a much larger mug of ale for Teera.
A bucket. A bucket.
Pretty much a bucket. Yeah.
And Teera and Vorn, you would have found Doc outside of the hearth talking to a floating flower pot.
Oi, Doc.
Yeah.
For a second, Teera thinks about saying something about the flower pot, but we've seen a lot of weird stuff today, the least of which is that flower pot, and it doesn't appear to be an aggressive flower pot. So she just looks at Doc and is like, "You won't come in and get a drink?"
Lying is bad, right?
Yeah.
Then no.
You want to stay out here?
No.
Do you want to come in and get a drink then?
Am I allowed to come in and not get a drink? The last time I got a drink, it went...
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, you can come on in with us and just for the fellowship, you know?
Maybe
Yeah.
Frank would like a drink. You could ask him.
Oi, flower pot, you want a drink? Doc, is he saying anything? I can't hear him.
Vorn goes, is that a no? Yes, water?
That means no, thank you.
That means no. Okay, good to know. That's a language I don't speak. Well, then you go and both come in and just kind of, you know, be with the group. I
Okay.
think we're a group now. It's been 24 hours. That's how you know we're a tribe. And then I just go into the bar, hoping Assyria
All right.
has my bucket of beer ready.
Had it as soon as Teera enters the...
I don't even break stride, and I like
Yep.
scoop it up and make my way around the table and sit down.
You you would each well, I think you, as you all sort of gather together. Irony would get most of you and then sort of kind of lean over to the table where Mizya is. Great Rita will see you now. Come with me and we'll lead you all to a large red door with gold trim that's just on the middle of one of the walls. You sort of have to squeeze between a couple tables that are crowded. But Irony opens the door and leads you all in.
I think as we stood up, Mizya did it very loudly, like closed their book with a thump.
Of course. As you walk through the door, and the door is closed behind you, the first thing that happens is all of the noise of the bar goes away. And immediately the only sound you hear is a crackling fire in a fireplace, in a very low-lit room that is lit only by the fireplace and a few spaced out sconces with low burning flames in them. There are several comfortable chairs spread around. There is a sideboard table with a variety of food, meats and cheeses, a couple pitchers of ale and some glasses. Mizya, you recognize what this room looks like. It looks exactly like one of the study rooms at the Great Library in Silvery Moon.
Teera is like taken aback by this scene and then slowly looks over at Doc and it's like whispers to him, "What is your question, Doc?"
Oh,
Shh.
Frank wanted to know why there's a fire. They said there was no fire in Candlekeep anywhere. In fact, they made a really big deal about it. Does that mean we're not in Candlekeep anymore?
No, I think they did make a big deal out of it, and it makes sense because of all the, books. But I think, Vaughn could tell you fire and books don't really mix. But I think they said that it's allowed in the hearth. I think it's fine. I think we're still where we think we are.
Is you?
Don't worry. Sorry.
I having spent decades at Silvery Moon, I think Mizya would know pretty much every one of the study rooms pretty well. So I think my first thing is I want to know is that where we are, or is this a recreation of?
Give me an investigation check.
Oh, Dwight.
No.
Good question.
I'm gonna use one of those. I'm gonna use one of those domain tomes.
Good call, bro.
To reroll or gain
Reroll.
advantage? That's 3 domain tomes to reroll.
Fine, 3 to reroll because I rolled a 5.
Well, you got 36 of them. So.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you can-
Let's just go ahead and make it 4, and I'll roll this reroll with advantage.
Okay.
There you go.
There you go.
So let's see. That puts you at 32.
Why the heck not? Burning a hole in our pocket.
That is a dirty 20.
Oops.
Woo!
Okay. So you're looking around this room, Mizya, and you see the chairs that are seated around the hearth. Everything about this room looks and smells like you remember. You even notice that the chair closest to you and to the hearth has a place on where these are sort of like wingback chairs, but it's kind of velvety covered, and then they've got little tassels that hang down around the bottom. You notice that one chair has that same spot where the tassels are hard and almost crispy because they once got pushed too close to the fire. Little wear marks in the chairs, everything about it. This looks like the room you've spent many years in. However, You also notice there's no heat coming from the hearth. It is an illusion.
Oh.
Great reader Tellus Avosta is seated about 10 feet away from you. Mizya Helviar, I believe is your name, yes?
That it is.
I see in your eyes recognition.
I
spent time in Silvery Moon?
Many years. I have lost count, to be honest. I have read everything there is to read there, which is why I am now here.
Mizya, I think with that investigation check, something clicks. You realize you've seen her before. You recognize her from the library at Silvery Moon. About probably 30 years ago, she was studying. She was much younger, well, 30 years younger, had less gray in her hair, and much shorter hair, less wrinkles, but you would recognize her. I would say you probably, for as long as you spent there, you would have known her name. Whether or not you remembered her full name, you would have known her by maybe by reputation. Surely as somebody who she spent about 4 years studying at Silvery Moon.
I think Mizya would know at this point that would register the recognition, but would not have any recollection of name or position other than just it was somebody that had some sort of import, but it was not important to Mizya, so it's then been pushed out for make room for things that were. But Mizya will squint their eyes. I know you. We spent time together at Silvery Moon, and now you're here. So
she looks at you, and you swear the illusory fire catches in the reflection and almost twinkles in her eye as she says, "Yes, yes. I brought you many tomes, many years ago. While I was studying at Silvery Moon, I was also working in the library. I remember you. My reputation, mostly. I am pleased to see our paths have crossed once again."
Well, a seeker of knowledge is always someone I will be glad to share a room with.
Well, perhaps you too then can appreciate this extra-dimensional space here. I commissioned it myself. The fire is, of course, illusory, and the affectations of the decor are illusory, but everything else is stylized from one of my favorite study rooms at Silvery Moon.
I think I take my hand kind of like graces across the chair and just kind of my fingers just kind of slightly glide across those melted tassels. I must commend you for your attention to detail. I spent many hours in this room myself, and as far as I can tell, nothing has escaped your quite perfect recreation.
She nods slightly. Please, choose your favorite seat.
I will go to the opposite side of the table from the one that I was just the one that's with its back to the fire, and I reached for a chair, but then I move it so that it's in a different spot, and I bring another chair into that spot. They always seem to move my favorite chair from my favorite spots. So, and then I will sit down and just kind of nod and smile.
Please,
Phenomenal.
everyone, make yourselves comfortable. I do not intend for this to take too long, and I hope to be able to answer questions as well as ask them. Please, tell me what you can about what you discovered in the study and how you came to find Matthias. And I'm not going to make you recount the entire adventure, but if there's anything you specifically want to point out. Thanks for the raid, quiet gentleman.
Thank you. You will see Asaria like take a couple steps towards the chairs and kind of look around, and then she's gonna quickly turn around and just sit on the ground against the wall. You see like a flash of memory from the kitchen back at the mansion kind of just flashes across her face. So she's just gonna sit on the ground and kind of lean against the wall and have Soren kind of put his head in her lap as they recount what essentially was happening at the mansion.
Teera goes over and like tops off her ale with the ale that's sitting on that little banquet table, and then goes and sits at the table and just sort of shrugs. As I assume Mizya probably tells a lot of the story because Mizya was paying attention and not dying.
Yeah, Vorn just checks under the chair before he sits down. Grabs the table, makes sure the table is sturdy, then takes a seat too.
Mizya makes a point to point out all of the monsters that they killed, but doesn't really mention too much the times that they almost died in the maw of a mimic or crushed under a tiny library. So.
Tiny. Isn't that tiny?
You know, Vorn, I once heard that if you bite the chair first, it might not bite you back.
Yeah, you're probably right. Vorn does not bite the chair. He takes a seat. Thank you, Doc.
Suit yourself.
And Asaria will say they were able to figure out the riddle and what the word was.
With not nearly enough vowels, by the way.
Sure. So that's the word to get in. I believe Mizya had the word to... I'm sorry. That's the word to leave. Mizya had the word to get into the actual mansion itself. I believe it was Scepter, if I do recall.
Yes, we have since secured Matthias' study room and taken possession of Vestandia's book, The Joy of Extra-Dimensional Spaces. Or rather, re-secured it and pulled it from general circulation. The study room and the permanent Mordenkainen's magical mansion spell that Vestandia cast in that very location will be investigated thoroughly using the information you have provided. We will send a team of adjutants and a sage and perhaps even an archmage in to keep an eye out. It's not surprising what you've had to deal with, finding what you did in there. Vestandia, I knew her. She was well known for her ability to enchant mundane items into, well, things that might attack you if you touch something you're not supposed to, such as those swords you were telling me about, or even the animated books. The creatures that you found within, Well, it was her extra-dimensional space, so it's a little worrisome that some of them got out, but it seems as though it is virtually impossible for them to find their own way outside of the portal. Nonetheless, we will be keeping an eye on it. You may remember our friend here, Irony. When they pulled you to investigate Matreus' disappearance, they quickly assembled you and drew you into this sort of, well, adventure. I do apologize that if Irony was a bit hasty in their eagerness to embroil you in such adventure. But please understand, part of the blame comes from me as well.
Excuse me, ma'am. I think my friend Doc has a question. Doc, is this a question for us or for the great reader type?
No, it's a question for them.
Yes, Doc.
When will you question the last creature to see Matreus alive? I think they might be able to provide a lot of insight.
The last creature to see Matreus alive, as I understand it, was the imp, which is no more. Unfortunately, devils, when they are destroyed, turn to ash and return to the abyss. So, I fear that was not within our ability to do.
Okay.
It seems as though, from what you've told me, Matreus had discovered this word, which I'm rather shocked that our own sages, when they took possession of this book a number of years ago, did not think to take it to the very study that Visandia frequented while she was here. I had assumed that investigation had taken place. Nonetheless, Matreus seems to have been the one to find it and was attempting to discover. You see, he had been taken with the disappearance of Visandia and had been convinced for quite some time that she was still alive, though her estate was turned over to the various recipients. And your testimony would serve to prove that. Whether or not you knew this, though I assume, Mizya, that you did, the presence of the homunculi within tells us that Vistandia is still alive somewhere. For a homunculus cannot exist without the life of the wizard who cast it. But it is not Vistandia or her whereabouts, or Freot. And honestly, it's not even the demise of our friend Matreus directly that I wish to speak to you about. When you passed through the gates of Candlekeep, I singled each of you out. I've been watching for some time the entrance to Candlekeep, and it would seem the fates were working their own machinations before you all arrived here, for I never expected to see what I was looking for appear all at once on the same day. And to be honest, I wasn't sure until until the events of the last less than 24 hours. You see, Irony and I have been hatching a plan to form a group within Candlekeep here of sanctioned adventurers and investigators to follow up on some of our more bizarre acquisitions. Books, works, and tomes that come in with mysteries we can't quite figure out, or that require a bit more investigation beyond the walls of Candlekeep. too often these are placed on the shelves for just anybody to come into contact with. But you would, well, after hearing your tale in the dining room of the mansion, you might not be doubtful of books that could leap off the shelf and attempt to devour you whole if you wander into the wrong part of the library. And so, that is what I would like to talk to you about. I would like to sanction you, personally. Though you didn't know it, and perhaps even I didn't know it, as irony jumped the gun a bit, as they say, you've sort of undergone a trial and proven yourselves quite capable. In addition to free room and board, as your discoveries pan out, I can also offer you limited access to the inner sanctum of the Great Library.
And you will notice that Mizya has been tuning out this whole time, just like wow, 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 wow. But at the mention of the inner sanctum, just sits bolt upright in their chair and rapt attention fully on at this point.
We don't need that. We're just happy to help.
Well,
Pay no attention to the large one.
he means
He's
well.
overly nice. Say more about this inner sanctum access, if you would.
Well, normally access beyond the Emerald Door is only granted with specific written invitation by one of our sages, or our great readers or master readers, someone such as myself. And usually these are limited to a 10-day pass. But it does grant you access to our inner wards and some of our, well, direct access to the collections therein. Irony, of course, will be your direct handler, if you will. But you will be able to research things on your own. You will be sanctioned directly by me, and I will be keeping record of what you find and what you deal with.
Vorn raises his hand, delighted for the offer. Is there any gold involved?
Absolutely.
That's great.
You will be paid as employees. The free room and board at the House of Rest and the ability to access the inner ward are perks, if you will. If it is acceptable to you, you will each be paid at a rate of 75 gold a month. Or 25 gold per 10-day.
I hate to be greedy. What if, like, do you have a smith in this town? A smith that I could get, like, armor from?
Yes, we do have a smithy at the stables.
Okay.
Is there something you are looking for in particular?
No, not anything no, not anything particular. I'm just curious.
Well, if you are looking to have armor fashioned, or any of you needing any thing worked by a smith, please do see Cari Hammerbind over at the smithy. He's a lovely dwarf, former soldier, knows weapons quite well and armor, but if it involves the shaping of metal, he is quite good at it, I assure you.
How long is this commission for?
Well, I'd like to take it on a case-by-case basis, if you will, but truth be told, when it comes to mysteries here at Candlekeep, it is, you could do this work for centuries.
Huh. So Candlekeep does not have a guard that does this.
Candlekeep is not your typical city. We have many magical wards, permanent magical wards in place that prevent virtually any attack that could come from without, and most of what could come from within. We have no need for traditional guards. The Avowed are numerous. I believe at last count there were nearly 300 of the Avowed here. We employ a couple dozen monodrones that got stranded here on our plane a number of years ago. They mean well, but they can only deliver a single book at a time. But they
Kira's
do.
eyes light up. Sorry.
They do
Oh.
good work. But no, that is why I conceived with irony of this dedicated group that could fulfill the needs of half adventurer, half librarian, I guess. Sort of, imagine if you will, though it's a far-fetched concept, something Matreus told me about, but imagine something like a librarian or an archaeologist who goes out and acquires things in the world. They go on great adventures, raiding arks or temples of doom or what have you. You could be like those adventurers, bringing these things back that belong in the library.
So you want us to work with scribes and scrolls and uncover the Candlekeep mysteries?
I'm gonna roll for necrotic damage.
Roll credits!
Well, it was fun, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Yes, that is precisely what I would like to do.
Wow.
Oh,
Make sure somebody chronicles our adventures. I feel like this is going to be fun and entertaining for other people to experience as well.
I'm sure there's a looking glass or something that they can use.
Yeah.
This hurts my soul.
So,
God dang it.
it sounds as though you are interested in this endeavor. I mean, if you're not, then we don't have a show, and where do we go from here?
Frank says okay.
Oh. Frank says, well, I can be the adventurer part and Mizya can be the librarian part. How about that?
That works. Are we allowed to potentially leave Candlekeep, though, should we need to?
Oh, absolutely. I assure you, some of your investigation will most likely take you out beyond Candlekeep and up and down the Sword Coast and perhaps even further inland, depending on what you uncover. We have numerous books here that have come from rather mysterious origins. Some books here that have been sitting on shelves waiting to be investigated. You never know when a mysterious book is going to just suddenly end up in your possession. The Joy of Extra-Dimensional Spaces was one such book that we had here for a long time and could have been investigated. And perhaps some of this could have been avoided, but then we wouldn't be here.
I'll be honest. I don't know a lot about my feelings, but I don't think what we found in the extra dimensional space was joy.
Teera uncomfortably rubs her neck and is like, no, I guarantee it was not. Doc, speaking of fancy books, you still got that one that the metal Cyclops handed me?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's right here.
Oh my god.
Dude, hold on,
Oh,
Doc. Wait,
God.
before you hand that to me, give me just a second there. Yeah, yeah. Is that it? You can hand it to me anytime
sure.
now, Doc. I'm ready. Great. Perfect. I have it. Well.
Same thing as last week. It's canon.
I love these
Classic.
guys.
Yeah.
Tell us. I must read the whatever. I'm sorry to be disrespectful. This was another one of those books that we found I don't know why, but I feel like it's significant. It's called Mazfroth's Mighty Digressions.
Mizya, this is the first you're seeing that Teera and Doc apparently found a book that they didn't tell you about.
I think Mizya just kind of instinctively reaches for it.
What are you doing? I'm handing it to the lady.
Well, if it's okay with you, Teera, I would be fine if Mizya would like to take a look at it. After all, if you're going to be investigators, you'll not be able to rely on me when you're in the field.
That's okay. Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was okay with you first. Here you go, Mizya. Just don't be grabby.
I do apologize. And
It's all right.
I would like to insight check that apology. No, I'm kidding.
It is a lie.
It's a lie.
The book that is handed to you is about 7 by 9. It's a worn leather cover. Looks like it's been a well-used book. You can already see, looking at the pages, there are a lot of mismatched pages in this book. There are pages that look like they are falling out. Yeah, it's a pretty battered looking journal. Do you flip it open and start looking through it?
Of course.
Yeah. So you would see in the cover on the title page that it spells out in a very nice font, written in cursive with black ink, Mazfroth's Mighty Digressions by Mazfroth Githur. And as you start flipping the pages, there is no longer a sign of the steady hand. These are hastily written notes. There are essays on many numerous things. You see an essay on the treatise of deities and access to the weave. The year of blue fire, the weave and the spell plague. Refutation of the role of Malar in lycanthropy. On werebears, why lycanthropes need not be feared. On the use of Orcus worship in lich creation. Evaluating the role of Jubilix in the creation of oozes. Among many other essays. What is an area of study that Mizya is interested in, if not one that was already mentioned? Are there any of those essays that interest you?
You said so. You mentioned lycanthropy
Twice.
Yeah, I think both of those would have not so much in that Mizya is interested in it specifically. It's just one that they have not spent as much time as everything else that they are seeing. So I think those would have kind of tickled their fancy a little bit more than the others.
Yeah, and as you start looking through, reading these hastily scrawled, what looks like a first draft, but is very well reasoned, very, very well argued positions, you see in this first essay that some scholars believe that Malar, the god of the hunt, is responsible for lycanthropy, but that Mazfroth is completely disagrees with that theory on the basis that not all lycanthropes are evil as Malar is. Werebears, for example, tend to be very good. As you are reading this book, this essay, you all watch as Mizya is just sort of flipping the pages, at first kind of perusing through this book, and then seems to completely lose awareness that you are all there as they begin flipping slower and slower, just apparently just taking their time to read
I
This
think at some
article-
point, I would have reached into my satchel and brought out a notebook and started scribbling notes of what I was reading as well.
And I would like the rest of you to make a perception check.
Jesus, 7. Not a good night, Ricky. Dang it, I blame you.
Rolled a
Hey,
nat-
my rolls only work for me, so
Okay.
I'm not responsible for anyone else's rolls.
rolled
Alright,
a
so-
nat 20 plus 4 is 24.
24 for
Jeez.
Assyria.
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
Are you still using the dice imbued with the power of friendship?
They
My
are
God.
serious dice. I am not using any others.
Also, they're green, so every time Jordan holds them up, they
I-
blend into the green
Yeah.
screen. It's awesome.
Got a 13 on that one.
Okay. Did anybody beat Assyria's 24?
Anybody can.
Assyria, Soren begins to growl
Oh.
really low in his throat. And you notice as Mizya reaches for, takes this notebook out, and with one hand is holding this book, with the other hand beginning to take notes. You see that the book starts to glow, as if the fire, the illusory firelight was somehow coming towards the book, and it begins to glow more luminously. And you watch as the light takes the form of a roughly 3-foot diameter sphere rising up from the book. And Mizya, I need you to make a Constitution saving throw.
Oh no.
Oh no, we're about to combat.
Yep.
Let's go.
Maybe
It
I'm
is a
saving my good.
14.
Question?
As long as
Mizya, you feel... Oh, wait, sorry. I forgot to do something, so...
all
yeah,
hear
you
is
would
the
still
chair
do that.
saying, "Damn boy."
So, you suddenly are struck as this light, like a beam of light from this sphere, lashes out at Mizya.
Ooh.
Oh,
And
no.
Mizya, you are hit with a sudden wave of total exhaustion. However, you did beat the save, so you're not actually exhausted.
Ooh.
However, I'm a little worried about this. I need to know, Mizya, how many
God. What? What?
how many hit points do you have? 15? Okay,
15.
because
Oh, no.
I'm rolling a fair number of dice here.
And keep in mind, they
It
are
sounds
entirely
like more than
unarmored.
one.
They are unarmored.
Level 2. Level 2.
Mizya,
We can spend 5 to make him re-roll, team. Let's just remember that.
well, I've already
Yeah,
rolled the
32.
damage, and it only works for one die. Mizya,
Oh no.
you take, and this is why I asked how many you had. I think you were safe. You take 20 points of necrotic
Wow.
damage as you all watch as this light hits Mizya, and Mizya suddenly stiffens, and you watch as light seems to flow out of Mizya, and then they collapse in the chair, because I believe that knocks you out.
Oh
Yep.
shit! Oh shit!
And I would like you all to roll for initiative, including you, Dwight.
Okay.
Mother trucker.
Yeah.
I need to hold on. I gotta grab something real quick. Where'd it go?
This is not good. Not good, Mav.
Mm-mm.
Maybe we shouldn't have taken this commission.
Yeah.
This is a bad portent. This is.
We're gonna have to check every book now. We're
This is why Teera doesn't like to read. I hope you're all taking note.
Vorn, why did you roll an intelligence save?
Oopsie. I thought INT meant initiative. Thank
Alright.
you.
Yep, you're welcome.
I see it.
need. All right, Doc, what you got?
That one was nice.
3.
3.
Oh,
Assyria.
17.
Mizya.
6.
Teera.
21.
Vorn.
19.
All right, then I'm gonna roll for 8, 10, 4. Tell us the 10. And this thing is okay, so Teera, you're gonna go first. Vorn, you're gonna go second. This is gonna go third. Syria's fourth. Teles is fifth. Mizya sixth, and Doc is last. Teera, what do you do as this orb of light hovering up? It's a 3-foot ball of light, and it is, as you look at it, the best way to describe it is it looks like Slimer from Ghostbusters in terms of the way it, not the characterization, though it does seem to have this sort of oozy ectoplasmic look about it. It's translucent, it's glowing, but light seems to drip from it, though nothing hits the floor. What do you do, Teera?
Okay. Can I ask a question? What happened to the book? So Mizya fell.
Mizya's just in this chair, kind of slumped and unconscious. The book is locked in their hands.
Okay.
I mean, they're holding it. They're literally a death grip.
Oh my god. Okay. Is the book open still?
Yep.
Teera wants to lunge forward and try to close the book.
Okay.
I'm not going to be able to hit this thing, guys. We all know how to play this game here. We're all adults.
I mean, hey, can't hurt but try, but okay.
It definitely can hurt, but it's my best guess. So, okay, I lunge forward and try to close the book. Is that like a grapple? What do you think?
It is going to be a... I'm going to have you make a strength check.
Okay.
And even though you are unconscious, Mizya, I want you to go ahead and roll me that, just so I can have a baseline for determining how hard you were holding the book.
You are muted.
All right, strength, you said?
Yes.
Yep, strength athletics.
I got a 23.
All right, but before you go clapping yourself on the back for pulling this book out, uh-oh, Cari froze. Are you there, Cari?
Oh no!
Oh no.
The roll was too
Oh,
high
there
for
you
the
are.
internet.
There you are. You froze for a
Sorry.
minute, Cari.
Yeah, I know I did. I got scared. Sorry.
Before you clap yourself on the back too hard, you did just enter the creature's area of attack, its reach. It gets an
Fine.
opportunity attack against you.
See what happens. See what happens to you.
Does a 12 hit you?
No.
You watch as you lunge under this thing, and this sort of dripping light tries to grasp hold of you. You snatch the book out of
Awesome.
Mizya's hands.
I imagine Teera does like a softball slide like on her butt and then like shoop yoinks it.
Yep, and then you pop up on the other side of the chair.
Yes.
Out of the range,
Yes.
you have the book.
Have the book.
Born.
Can I call to Teera to throw it up in the air as I try to chop it down with an axe?
Yeah, speaking is a free action.
All right. Or at least like
Teera
maybe
won't,
not throw it on the...
Teera won't be able to do that this round because Teera's already acted and interacted.
Okay.
So
What's Mizya
you
doing?
wouldn't be able to chop it this round if you were waiting for her to throw it in the air.
Okay. And what's Mizya doing? She's still-
Dying.
Dying. She's still she's still encompassed in like that light or what?
Mizya is sitting in the chair, slumped over, eyes open, but there seems to be no life behind those eyes.
Born, do you have a healing potion? Didn't you take a healing potion the same time I did? You could
Nice.
go shove it down her gullet.
Jeez. Let me check.
Their gullet, sorry.
Inventory. I don't have a potion on me. Oh wait, no, I have one. I have one. Yeah. There we go. All right. Yeah. So I'm gonna run up to Mizya and grapple her mouth their mouth open and dump the potion down the throat.
Aggressive healing.
Okay, it is an action to put a healing potion into an ally's gullet, but you can do so. Roll 2d4 plus 2.
Nice.
I love the word gullet.
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 That's the first d4. Second d4, power d4. And are both of those plus 2 or just one of those plus 2?
Both are just the total of those two and then add 2.
Positive 5.
So 5 healing or points of healing to you, Mizya, as the healing potion slides down your gullet, and your light comes back in your eyes. But it's not your turn yet, so you're no longer dying.
Hey!
Bye.
We did it!
Should we destroy the book?
Well, we are working on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Screw this book.
It is
I
this
agree.
thing's turn,
Yep.
and it is going to lash out at Vorn, who is pretty much standing right next to it. That is not going to hit you, Vorn, as it gets an 8.
Spectacular.
So more light seems to drip off of it, and more to where you were when you were crouched down giving the potion to Mizya, and as you stand up, it misses you. It is instead going to hover up, or after, not instead. It's going to hover up to the ceiling, which is about 12 feet high. So it goes all the way up towards the ceiling, but as it does so, it leaves your space, Vorn, drawing an opportunity attack from you.
Ooh,
Nice.
Get him, Born.
Nice.
Get him, Born.
Get it.
Yeah, I'm gonna swing the axe on him there. And let's see. Agility, right? Attack. Hold
Yeah,
on.
you
Got
just
it.
click whatever attack you're using on your character
Yep.
sheet.
There it is. Oh, come on.
Oh, use real dice. Use real dice.
Reroll.
What is
Ricky, reroll. Ricky,
Yeah,
reroll.
yeah.
Reroll.
I'm definitely
it's,
gonna reroll
it's,
that.
it's
Let's
3
burn
dice for a
down.
reroll, and you've got
Yeah.
plenty of them.
Use
Yeah.
4 and then roll it with advantage. Use
Yes.
4 and roll it with advantage. We still have 30 after that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna follow my group's advice. I'm gonna roll it with advantage, reroll it
Follow our
with
group's
4.
very aggressive suggestions.
Yeah. There we go.
Uh,
That's better.
there we go. Those are the numbers we want to see.
Here you go there, hun. That's a heck of an attack. That'll get you some damage.
All right, what you got?
No, it doesn't, because I roll horrible with this. 1d12 plus 3, I got a 5. 5 points of damage on the book.
It's something.
What did you roll to hit?
23.
Okay, yeah.
23.
And then you did 5 points of damage? Okay.
I know.
What'd you
It
hit it
doesn't
with?
seem like a lot, but
What'd you hit it
my
with?
great axe. I have a 1d12 plus 3, and I rolled a 2, and I
Okay.
got 3 plus.
It happens.
Ricky knows math.
You
Doesn't
need to
happen to
send
me, but it
dice to
happens.
Ricky.
Oh,
Hashtag-
oh my
I'm-
god.
I'm just gonna chuck this axe and be done
Can
with
we?
it.
Can we
I
set
said-
the
keep
fun
in
now
mind-
for-
I said that after I missed 2 attacks with this creature, so.
Yeah.
Send dice to Ricky, please.
Yeah.
I have 100 dice
God.
in my bank. I just refuse to use them.
It is. Why is the signal going out now? Assyria.
Bonus action. I'm going to cast Hunter's Mark. So
Yay! Caw, hunter's mark.
So you're gonna see Asaria kind of looking towards that creature of light. And she's gonna kind of close her eyes and put 2 fingers up, kind of focusing in, and there's a green like flare. She opens up her eyes, and then there's a symbol of what appears to be a wolf that kind of gets seared into the light creature itself. As she casts her hunter's mark, she's going to then pull out her longbow and loose an arrow as she attacks this thing. That is going to be a 15 to hit.
That hits.
Oh, okay, so
as your arrow following your mark goes into it and seems to slow down as it hits this ectoplasmic form.
So cool.
All right, that is going to be 11 points of piercing damage as she's just kind of aiming right where the mark is on the creature, and then as the arrow flies, connecting into it.
Amazing.
I'm sorry, how many points?
11 points of damage.
Oh,
Okay.
Suck it, orb.
Nice. Nice.
Not for that extra D6.
Now, it's up at the ceiling, which is 12 feet high.
Mm-hmm.
It's 3 feet in diameter, which means the bottom of it is 9 feet away from the floor. So I don't know if there's anything Soren can do.
I mean, he can do an athletics check.
Yeah, I mean, you could if he wants.
Up.
If Soren wants to leap up and try to bite it, sure.
Yeah. Well, the table's there, right? Would it be possible he could jump up on the table and then try and?
Yeah, I'd say make an athletics check still.
Okay.
But I'd say do it with advantage because he's going to spring off of the table.
Okay. Okay, with advantage, that's going to be a 14 to hit.
That's going to hit.
Ooh, all right. Okay, so that's going to be his bite. That's going to be 5 points of piercing damage. And if this thing is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 11 strength saving throw or be knocked prone. As this Lily Soren leaps onto the table and like gives a little like arf, and jumps up at it.
You said a strength saving or a yeah, strength save?
Yep, DC 11.
That's going to be exactly 11.
All right, so it does succeed. Dang it.
So Soren leaps up off of the table, knocking a pitcher of ale and some of the meat and cheese askew. Leaps up, snarling, bites into this creature, and hangs on for just a moment before he comes crashing back down. He won't take any damage for that. But you see for a moment some of this ectoplasm seems to hang out of Soren's mouth before dissolving into nothingness. And suddenly you all hear in your mind this otherworldly voice. You just hear this, "Feed me! I need life!" As Soren bites into it.
I don't like it.
I don't like it.
I hate it here. I hate it here. I hate it here. I hate it here.
I would like
I hate it here.
I would like each of you to roll me a d4 and add 1 to it.
Okay.
What does this mean? What is this for?
3.
Is this Call of Cthulhu?
I
3?
feel like this is some COC. I got
Sanity
a,
check.
So
I
I
got a 4.
got 3, a 4, so
2.
7,
3.
8, 9, 12.
I got a 1 plus 3, you say?
Yep.
Yeah.
12,
4.
16. As you suddenly hear from the other side of the room, you hear a Kirisala as the Great Reader makes a motion with her hand, and what looks like 5 luminous quill pens go shooting through the air, flying, dodging around everybody and into this thing.
That is the fanciest magic missile I have ever heard of.
The Great Reader has cast a 4th level magic missile into this. You hear this, and it seems to shrink a bit, but it has not completely been destroyed. As Mizya, it is your turn. It's hovering about 9 feet above you at the ceiling.
So, Mizya's just coming to as they look up and see what's happening, not quite understanding what's happened to them, but seeing that, you know, everybody's actions, and then sees the Great Reader fire off these magic missiles that clearly do damage. And then their eyes kind of perk up and, hey, I know that one. And I will also cast magic missile. And six. It's going to be 8 points of damage.
Oh my god.
So first off, what do your magic missiles look like?
Middle fingers. Just gonna...
They look like books.
They just, as they launch, they just go, yes, 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 yes. They're just snark. It's Mizya's snarky missile.
It's just this really heavy sigh, just for each one. But I think they're just kind of a simple black dart with probably like purple plumage on them, or what do you call that on the arrow?
Fletching.
Fletching.
Fletching. There we go. So
cool.
Yeah, just a simple black dart with purple fletching.
And
oh, good.
How do you want to do this?
Oh, Mizya takes down another monster.
Mizya is
there yet, Mizya.
Mizya's eyes are gleaming right now because this is a spell Mizya has just recently added to their spell book and prepared following our recent adventures. Having spent a great many years, the only magic Mizya ever did was to help their studies. And given what we've just been through, thought it was probably a good idea to have some things that might do some things. So the fact that they're able to use this brand new spell, I think there's this little like cackly giggle that kind of just like squeaks out of Mizya's throat as this thing just, you see that the first one hits and it kind of absorbs. By the time the third one, they all three hit at the same time, and it just kind of and just kind of
nice
blows into like a bright dust, and then the light just fades away from it.
Awesome.
As that happens, Teera, in your hand, the book grows too hot to hold. As you drop it, it doesn't even hit the floor, and it just goes like flash paper. The entire book disintegrates.
No.
Fine.
Fine.
Looking around, the Great Reader, Tellus of Osta, she comes rushing over to you, Mizya. Are you all right? I think I was going to say nearly killed you, but I think it did.
Yes. Well, I don't seem to be dead now, and thankfully.
Do you know what that was?
It was here, and now it's not.
Mizya.
Oh, snap.
And only Mizya.
The sass is strong.
Actually, Doc, I want you to roll this too.
Oh.
I want you to roll me an Arcana or a Nature check. Nope. Straight Arcana. It's got to be Arcana.
A 13.
20.
You do not know what this is, either of you. But Tellus looks at you. That was a creature known as a Gingwatsum. It is created through ritualistic spell. And it is not created with good intentions.
I raised my hand and say, we're going to need 85 gold a month.
That's fair. And I think that's where we're going to end the session. Ricky just gave us a good... Ricky just gave the good like TV show punchline. I was going to go a few minutes more, but that can wait till next week.
No, it's
I'm
awesome.
Sorry, man.
No, don't be sorry, Ricky.
That's perfect.
I'm going to say take a point of inspiration, because sometimes I try to do that, but if one of you hits on the perfect when we're rating that sort of end point, if you hit with that, I'm going to call the session, because I love those kind of endings. Now you're all going to be thinking about it.
Executive producer Dick Wolf.
It gets to be around 10:30. You guys are going to start going, all right, what can I say that's clever? No, I couldn't have planned that better. That was the perfect. We're going to need 85 a month.
85 gold a month. That's so good, dude.
I love it.
Yay!
So
Another notch in Mizya's belt. Holy shit.
That was you've been recruited by the Kodan Armada, or by the Star League, to defend the frontier against Zur and the Kodan Armada. You've taken on apparently a role as adventurers, in-house adventurers / librarians to investigate books, and you've got another case.
We're Indiana Jones.
That was the beginning of our, half the epilogue to our first arc, with the thank you for indulging me for the memorial service, and
it was
awesome. That was awesome.
That was great.
And then taking us into our new chapter, Mazfroth's Mighty Digressions,
which is destroyed now,
right? But
the book,
it seems that Tellus might know something, so we'll see what we find next week when we return for chapter 8, titled to be determined. We are, let's see, we're going to be back on, I'm going to be back on Monday for, or sorry, not Monday. I will be back on Monday. I meant Thursday. Sorry, I'm trying to do multiple things at once. We are going to be back on Thursday for the return of the Dawnbringers, internet willing. We were supposed to be back last Thursday, and my internet crapped out completely. So we could not do our session, but we are planning that for this Thursday. Also, I will be over on Dice on Ice tomorrow night for our Curse of Strahd continuation. We somehow have been reborn after a TPK, so you'll want to check in on that, as we now work for Strahd.
Oh God.
Yeah. Also,
Uh-oh.
on Friday, you can find myself, Dwight, and Jordan as guests over on Slady's. We are playing in a charity one-shot. Anything more you can tell us about that, Jordan?
Not yet. I just know it's going to be over on Slady's ATL, I believe at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our amazing DM is going to be April Raygun, who is one of the founders and owners over at Slady's ATL. I believe that the charity that we are raising money for is Stop Hate AAPI. So it's going to be a fun time, and you're going to want to stay tuned. I believe they're coming out with promotional material tomorrow with some more information on it as well. So keep an eye on our Twitters, as that's where a lot of the upcoming info will be coming from. So
fantastic. Yay. Also, this coming Sunday, at a time Dwight will tell us, there's going to be myself and I believe it's all of our Sea of Thieves crew. Are going to be playing some Star Wars with Game Master Neophet, also known as Jay, over on Big Bearded Nerd. What time is that game, Dwight?
7 o'clock Eastern time.
7 o'clock Eastern on Big Bearded Nerd 21. And thank you, Jordan. Put in the Slady's ATL link in the chat as well, for where you can find us on Friday. Before we get out of here, I just want everybody to stick around, because in just a moment as we leave, I'm going to kick off a raid to Michael Kritz, who looks like he is playing D&D Dark Alliance. So you want to check that out. Be sure to hit him with whatever emote she got. Tell him Mini Terrain Domain sent you. Yeah, so huge thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. So many awesome contributors to the channel. We had 1,000 bits from Ashenworks that I didn't get to call out. We got raided by the Quiet Gentleman.
Big night.
We got somewhere, I think we wound up getting like 20 some subs tonight from gift subs and resubs and stuff. So thank you all for that. That keeps the players flush in domain tomes and keeps the lights on here. So thank you for that. And of course, as always, a huge thank you to Gary, Jordan, Dwight, Cari, and Ricky, without whom it would just be me talking to myself for 2.5 hours.
Frank.
And Frank.
Yep.
And Frank.
Not Anne Frank.
No, not Anne Frank.
No.
All right,
Dwight.
before we're gonna just go ahead and end on that note. I'm gonna kick off this raid here in a moment, but we're gonna go ahead and end the stream the same way we end every stream, and you can say it with me if you want.